So, Rajeev Bhai, thank you again for taking this valuable time. And I'm looking forward to your insights on well-being, what it means to you, and how corporate world can really, truly create a structure, create a system, create processes where we can really bring well-being of all employees, all stakeholders, and all beings to a new level. So please share your insights and your thoughts.
So, my own experience in this world, and for me, corporate life is but one manifestation of the world. So I have never really differentiated between life and corporate life and personal life and home life. So my experience in life, which includes corporate life, is that whatever our purpose is, that our ability to move towards that purpose gets magnified if we are experiencing a sense of well-being, because then we get the energy. We are able to tap into our full energy and into our full potential and pour it into the action or the karma that we are embarking on to achieve the purpose. Because if we are not experiencing well-being, that energy is getting dissipated in coping with the sense of unease or the dis-ease, the anxiety, the worry. So there's a lot of dissipation of energy that takes place, and that energy is no longer available to me to pour into my action or karma in pursuit of the purpose, no matter what the purpose is. So if we put it into a corporate setting, just as an example, and we say that productivity and innovation and quality, let's take these three as the objectives, all as per a strategy or a budget or what have you, to achieve the purpose of the organization. These three things, the ability of people to deliver on these three things goes up enormously if the people in the organization are experiencing well-being and have the energy available to them to pour into this purpose and the action rather than dissipating. So this has been my experience, personal experience, hugely. I mean, I have seen how much of a difference, on a scale of 0 to 10, it will go from 2 to 9, depending on how much of a sense of well-being and happiness I'm feeling. The same person, my ability to contribute to the task or purpose is sort of running from a low of 2 or 1 to a high of 8 or 9, depending on how I'm feeling. So to me, it's such an obvious thing. And the good news is that more and more people now are talking about, you'll be surprised, Dinesh, that in the last 4 or 5 days, so many of the conversations that I have had with so many people, including with Anand Mahindra, we talked about wellness and happiness and how important that is, and how it is something that is not there to the extent that we want it to be. So I don't know whether I've addressed your question in any way. Now, your other question was, how do we bring it into the structure and the processes and the metrics? So everything starts with an awareness. So if there is an awareness that the well-being of the people, of the stakeholders, but let's start with the employees, and then we can extend it to the other stakeholders, that if the state of well-being is directly proportional to 3 major criteria, which are critical for achieving our goal, which is productivity, innovation, and quality. If that awareness is there, so I think the first thing is the awareness, and then the intention that I want to tap into this huge potential that is lying there, untapped. Then I think people can build up. And there are already lots of sort of frameworks that are available, starting with people being able to measure their own state of wellness. There's counseling going on. There are physical. So, I mean, there could be n number of forms, and I don't know enough about those. But to me, the awareness that this is a great thing and it'll help, and then setting of the intention that we must do it. I think if these two are in place, then there are plenty of structures and processes and formats, etc., that would fall into place. And I have to be truthful and tell you that I'm not very au fait, and therefore I cannot describe to you the third part. But I'm seeing the awareness, and also I guess I'm seeing among lots of people the intention that we must promote wellness and happiness. And that's, it's like a movement, Dinesh bhai. I'm seeing it as a movement. It was very much on the periphery, and then it started coming into mainstream. For example, I remember at Harvard, we were exposed to this gentleman. Now, see, this is my age, I'm forgetting his name. I have worked so much with him and his company here. He was the happiness guru.
Okay.
He was the happiness guru at Harvard, and his courses were getting more students than any other course in the history of Harvard. And I'm just forgetting his name. I'll get it. An Israeli gentleman.
Okay.
And then he sort of started a company, and he's sort of spreading that. I have his book because I worked so much with him. But at that time, it was perhaps an almost, in India at least, an idea before its time, because people were more focused on dhande ka baat karo. Still, happiness and wellness. It was still not getting. I mean, there was lip service being paid to it, but it wasn't getting. But the COVID, I must say, has suddenly, in over 2 years, brought this absolutely center stage, and I think it's here to stay for quite some time.
So, Rajeev bhai, that's lovely. So there is more awareness and there is more intention, and you're right on. Those two things, without them, we can't move. However, if you look at the situation in US, just the report came out from Surgeon General, and they're talking about how workplace is creating all these mental issues. And as you talk to people, especially in the high-tech industry in the Bay Area, there have been a spate of layoffs. And that has created a tremendous amount of concern and depression and certain anxiety worries. And not only those who are laid off, but the ones who are on the job. Because what happens, the ones who are on the job are more worried now, but they might be next. So sometimes the ones who got laid off are better off, because at least now they know that they're done. So my question is, why organizations, why the CEOs and the CFO, if there is such a vast potential untapped, what is preventing them? Where is the ROI for investing time and resources for the well-being of employees? There are tons of models to bring about the culture of wellness, but the question is, where are the time and resources? Where is the ROI for wellness?
So, the point is that if awareness, if wellness and happiness and well-being are going to be major contributors to, as I said, productivity, innovation, and quality, it could be for anything, then there is no question of I have to do other things and I have to do this. No, you have to do this. It's an integral part. Maybe you need to do this as seriously as you need to do strategic planning, as seriously as you need to do anything. So they'll have to make resources available, redistribute the resources, and pull it here, because the returns would be very, very high. The return on investment will be very high if they find the right way to measure that return on investment. So I think purely by the sort of quantitative criteria of we will put our resources where the return is the highest, then this will qualify as meriting resources being put in. So I think that will happen. I don't think we have enough data. You see, we are a world, we need sort of data and we need evidence. So those things have to be brought in there. And I think that's where research will come in. And maybe already there, I'm sure, in fact, there is data. But like the quality movement, which took some time to sort of really take off, you know that because you were involved in sort of the whole quality movement. Here also it will come center stage. That it's not a nice thing to have, but it's a huge business imperative. You have to put it in there because it has a huge return on investment or a huge return on capital employed, whatever terminology you want to use. So it will just come in. on that criteria. It's just not getting there. I think I said that there is an awareness. I told you what Anand Mahindra talked about. Now, Anand, of course, is a very unusual business leader, and he's been talking about this for many years. But whether the more sort of left-brain, quantitative kind of people will get it and pay more than lip service is to be seen, because the losses of productivity, the loss of innovation, the loss of everything that firms are experiencing because people are anxious, because people are having nervous breakdowns, etc., etc. Once that data gets accumulated and some sharp professor, I don't know, in Harvard or Stanford, publishes a couple of articles, and then it'll attract attention, because it's a reality. That's a fact.
Well, I have been, you're right on. And talking about Stanford, the IDEO Center, the IDEO group, and actually in India itself, I love what Arun Jain is doing, intellect design. I mean, he has really applied all those ideas of design principles. And I have always been fascinated by this concept. I'm very hands-on kind of a person. So I think what perhaps if someone can in India can just prove the concept, just design a situation in a company, in an organizational setup. And if we can prove the concept, then it'll be lovely. So you have, in your experience, any advice or any suggestion of a CEO who is thinking of, he's totally convinced, let's say his intent is clear and he's aware, and now—
Do I know any such person? Is that your question?
What would you, if you were that person, let's say you are that person, yeah, what would you do now? How would you go about really executing it, proving the concept that, yes, I believe in it and I want to prove it?
Yeah. Well, the only way to prove a concept is to get evidence, right? So I would first have to implement, the best way to implement is if you can get people to think like you are thinking. That doesn't always work. So in some cases, you have to have a combination of persuasion and fiat, and just put wellness and happiness practices by fiat if you are not getting the traction, and then start collecting data on productivity, on improvements in quality, on innovation. You collect data, and it will take a little time. But so this is the way I would do it. I would implement these, and if need be, by fiat, and really review it and really put it into the KRAs of people, even if there's a revolt against it. Do it. That's the only way to do it, because sometimes, and I think the urgency is such that we can't wait for osmosis. It won't happen by osmosis.
Right.
So most people will say yes, but we don't really have the resources for it, or where's the time? It's a distraction. So those are the kinds of objections. And so it really needs the big man, whoever is the head of the organization, to push it and to really monitor it, maybe shove it into the KRAs or other things that determine the performance evaluation of his top team. He has to start from there, right? And then it will go down. I just wanted to say that my big one-time favorite, and I know that it's not something that many people would, is actually yoga and meditation. Any form of meditation. There are many, and it doesn't necessarily mean consuming huge amounts of time. Even small packages make a huge impact. So if I had to recommend one thing, I would do that, because that's what I have experienced, but I don't know in a corporate setting. I think people will accept now yoga and meditation. It could be small packages, 7 minutes or 8 minutes 3 times a day. And then let's start. You can't have it a 2-hour session once in a week or something. That doesn't work. So you have to get together, get somebody who's an expert yoga guy. He will put together these packages, and you'll say, now let's do it. And then you have to measure. What is the evidence? It has to be backed by evidence. Otherwise, it will just remain a story. It will be a fad, and there may not be many takers.
I couldn't agree more with you because I remember, and fortunately, we already had that tradition because when I was working with Larsen and Toubro back then, there was a yoga teacher who used to come and it was voluntary. And so I really benefited because I, I took lessons from him and I, to date, that has really helped me a lot. So I think these are lovely ideas and it has been lovely talking to you. Any other parting thought as we wrap up this dialogue?
If the price of not doing it will be very heavy, and I mean, that's a bad way to end something. I mean, it's much better to talk about the benefits, but I think we need to know the benefits and also the price of not doing something, which of course is factored into the calculation of the benefit. But I think it's an absolute crying business need and an imperative, which we ignore only at our own peril.
Excellent. So what I've understood from you that it's morally the right thing to do, and more importantly, it is also financially a right thing to do. But we need to collect evidence and data for that. Excellent. Thank you so much, and look forward to many more dialogues with you. And you are an epitome of humility and wisdom and warmth. So once again, thanks for your valuable time.
Thank you, Dinesh.